channel. If you're new, my name is Mary and I'm so happy to have you here for today's video where it's a little story time. I don't know if you guys like tea as much as I do, and I don't mean tea like you're sipping tea, but tea like gossip, like story time, like juicy stories from the past. And I have a juicy story from the past to share with you. I want to just preface this by saying I hold no ill will towards this person, but this was just like, at the time, a very traumatic thing that I went through. And thankfully now, like, I don't know, 12 years later, I am married to an amazing man. You know, my heart is fully healed. I do not begrudge the person. I forgave him a long time ago, even when he hadn't asked for my forgiveness. And I'm just in a really good place. But this story is so wild, I just thought it worth sharing. And this is how I discovered my ex was cheating on me with half the women in San Diego. So I was dating this guy and we were both in our 20s. We were living together even though we'd only been dating for 6 months. I was in my 20s. I was stupid. Whatever. San Diego's expensive. Let's move on. Okay. So we're in our 20s. We're living together after like 6 months of dating. We were both in the military. We were both in the Navy. And when you're in the Navy, you have duty days, which are days where like you report to the ship in the morning, you work your full day, and then you stay on the ship until the next day because you have to be on the ship in case there's like a fire or emergency. And like a certain percentage of the ship is always on the ship. And those are called duty days for those who are not familiar. So one weekend, he and I had plans. He had a motorcycle. He was a little bit of a bad boy. He had a motorcycle. He had a souped up little fast car. He was a really cool guy. And we had plans to go out on his motorcycle Saturday morning when I got off duty. So I had duty Friday, which means Saturday morning I'd be off work. I would head home and then we were going to hop on his motorcycle and head on out. Well, I ended up getting held over for work reasons. So I wasn't able to leave until like 1 o'clock or something. So I let him know, oops, sorry, it's going to be a late day. Maybe we can go riding when I get home or go riding this evening. And he was like, great, I've got some buddies that are going riding this morning. I may just go out and ride with them and then I'll meet you back at home. I said, okay, fine. He was like, because he was a bad boy, he was an adrenaline junkie. So he used to do this thing called dragging knee. I don't know, I'll put some pictures here of just like people doing it so you know what it looks like. But it's where you go like really fast through these like curves and canyons and you wear protective gear on your legs and you literally go so far to the left or the right that you drag your knee on the ground. It's called dragging knee. So he used to go dragging knee through the canyon. So he's like, I'm gonna go through the canyons with my friends. And I knew he was gonna go dragging knee. I was like, okay, cool. So I got home around like 12 or 1 and he still wasn't back. So I text him. I was really tired from my duty day. So I text him and I was like, hey, I'm gonna take a nap. You know, I'll probably be up in an hour. If you're home around that time, we can head out. So I took a nap. I ended up sleeping longer than I had planned. I slept for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Now it's like 3 p.m. He's still not home. He hasn't texted me back. You guys, you probably think this is going in one direction. It's going in a totally different direction. So by 3 p.m., he hadn't texted me back. So I tried calling him and his phone went to voicemail. And I'm like, this is weird. Okay, so more time goes by. Now it's like 4 o'clock. And it wasn't like him to like just completely ghost, right? We lived together, like, you know, we had this great relationship. He was already like looking at engagement rings with me, like, you know, so it wasn't like him to just ghost me like this. So my brain didn't jump to, oh, he's cheating. My brain jumped to worry and fear. I was like, what is this? Like, what's happening? So I went and I looked on his Facebook because I wanted to see if like his friends had like tagged him, like maybe they stopped to get lunch or something and his phone died, but someone tagged him like eating waffles at Waffle House with, you know, his name. And I didn't see that, but what I saw was a message from someone and it said, I know X's girlfriend is on his Facebook, but I can't remember her name to message her, but he's been in a serious accident. Please message me for details. So I messaged this person. Now my heart is like beating out of my chest. I messaged this person and he tells me that my ex, I almost said his name, was dragging me through the canyon, lost control of his motorcycle and slammed into a canyon wall, and that he had to be helicoptered out. And it seemed very, very serious. They said that he screamed and then he completely blacked out. and they didn't know what hospital he was taken to because he was just taken on a helicopter. And who knows where his, no, they knew his phone was with him, but like I don't know what, they just got him out of there. So I'm freaking out, I'm crying. Admittedly, this relationship with this person was the first relationship, like boyfriend-girlfriend relationship I had had since someone else I was dating for 3 years passed away like 2-3 years before this. Okay, so I'm getting like flashbacks. I am afraid. I'm crying. I had to call a friend. Like I finally found out what hospital he was at. I called around and found out. I had to call a friend to drive me. I couldn't drive myself. I was so distraught. And so I get there. He was in and out of consciousness. He had fractured 2 of his vertebrae. He'd broken his femur. He'd broken his pelvis. And he had internal bleeding. And I got there, thankfully, right before they were about to take him into surgery. And so they're like, hey, here are his belongings. They gave me the bag with his clothes in it. And they're like, we're taking him in. At that point, they had like kind of set my expectations that they weren't sure if he was going to survive because of the internal bleeding and everything. They didn't know how bad it was in there. And so they give me all this stuff. They're about to take him in for surgery. And I was like, hey, give me the passcode to your phone so I can call your family, text your friends, let them know where you are. Because like we've been dating for 6 months. I had like a couple people's phone numbers or Facebook. I didn't have everyone's. And so I wanted to start reaching out to all these people to let them know what had happened. Now, mind you, he had never given me the passcode to his phone before. I'd never asked for it before because I wasn't that person to just like go through people's phone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, if I feel like I have to go through your phone, I probably shouldn't be in a relationship with you. So I never went through his phone before. I'd never wanted to, thought to, anything. And he was like drugged up out of his mind. So he probably didn't realize, oh, she shouldn't see what's in my phone. So he just gave me the passcode. So they wheel him back to surgery. I go in his phone. I think I went to his text messages first because I wanted to like message the people he was with and let them know, hey, it's Mary. I got his phone. He's going in for surgery, whatever. I was going to call his mom as I'm texting these people. Anyway, I open up his messages and the first thing I see are obviously flirtatious and sexual messages to women, plural, women. Okay. Now, mind you, I just went through this roller coaster of like, oh, I'm worried about him. I don't know where he is. Oh my gosh, he's been in an accident. I don't know how serious it is. Oh my God, it's really fucking serious and he could die. Literally not knowing if he's going to come out of surgery or not. And I look in his phone and I won't get into the nature of the text messages, but it was very obvious that he was cheating on me or had cheated on me with multiple women. I'm talking like from what I could see, 3 or 4 women. But he also had like dating apps and stuff. And I don't know like if there were other women he had met up with. Like there were women he had been on dates with from dating apps, but I don't know if anything happened on those dates because it wasn't clear. But I would say he slept with at least like 4 other women, but had cheated on me, if you consider dates cheating, which I do, with at least a dozen or more in the 6 months we've been together. The week before he had this accident, he actually drove me several hours north to meet his grandparents for the first time. And he was telling them like, oh, this is my future wife, all this stuff. And there were messages from that weekend while we're at his grandparents' house. He's introducing me as his future wife. There were messages from that weekend to other women talking about like, hey, I'm with family this weekend, but when I get back in San Diego, we're going to Pound Town, baby. Going to Pound Town. And so I can like imagine how it feels to like the person that you love and thought you're gonna have a future with is like in an operating room right now fighting for his life while you are in tandem finding out that he's just been sleeping with half of San Diego. And it was so traumatic. I was shaking. I'm like, what do I do with this? His family's telling me, oh my God, okay, we're flying in. We're gonna, we're on our way. We'll be there on the red eye. We'll be there first thing in the morning, da-da-da. And where were they gonna stay? They were gonna stay at our apartment, okay? So now his family, and I can't tell them like, no, you can't stay there because he's a piece of shit and I'm breaking up with him if he survives this, right? Maybe I could have just walked away. But like, I thought he was gonna die, and I was like, well, if he's gonna die, I guess this secret just goes to the grave with him and with I, and like, that's it. But he didn't die. He survived the surgery. He ended up needing multiple other surgeries, and there were a lot of close calls. They brought in a priest at one point to pray because they thought he wasn't gonna make it. It was really scary, but he survived. Through all of this, now mind you, it's like, what do I do? He survived. Logic would say, dump his ass, right? Just, oh, good, you're alive. Okay, by the way, I know about all the cheating. Good luck with your recovery. But I had this idea, and you could call it naive, right? Whatever. I was young. It was weird circumstances. I had this idea. I'm like, well, surely if anything can change someone, can change his cheating ways, it is to go through this truly near-death experience and see who's with you, picking up the pieces. I really thought that would keep him faithful. So eventually, like, weeks after the accident, because he was on a lot of drugs, like he was on life support for a period of time. He was in a medically induced coma. So like, the heart-to-heart about the cheating didn't happen until weeks after the accident. And then we finally talked about it, and I agreed to stay together with him, and he was going to get counseling, and we would do couples counseling and like whatever. And mind you, all this happened in like late-ish 2011. I mentioned earlier I was in the Navy. So I was going on my first deployment at the beginning of 2012. And from his accident, so he was in like some kind, I don't know, like a recovery hospital, a rehab hospital. So it wasn't like an old folks home. It wasn't a full-blown hospital. It was like a rehab facility. He had to stay in a rehab facility for like 6 to 8 weeks after the accident. And after that, he could come home, but he was in a wheelchair. So we had to move into a different apartment unit that was wheelchair accessible. So I'm literally like helping this guy like go to the bathroom, like doing all this stuff. We ended up having a family member of his move in with us so she could help take care of him when I was working and take care of him if he needed it once I deployed. So I'd go on deployment, and literally like within weeks of me going on deployment, after everything, after all the cheating, after the near-death experience, after the rehab and the wheelchair and the wipe and poop off of his butt, after all of those things, literally I was gone for like 3 weeks, and I found out he was already cheating on me again. So I broke up with him. I like, once I got into my next port, I broke up with him, and he was like, I can't believe after everything we've been through, you're breaking up with me over the phone. And I'm like, you're cheating on me again. Like, you don't deserve that. You mean, like, I could just ghost you and I would still be in the right here. Like, are you serious? At least I'm giving you a phone call. But he had the gall to be upset with me for breaking up with him over the phone after everything we'd been through. But he was literally sticking his boop in someone's boop, like when I was deployed and defending our freedom and democracy. So that's the story of the time that I got cheated on. I've only ever been cheated on once in any of my relationships. I've been dating for over 2 decades. This is the one guy that cheated on me, but it was a doozy, and it's quite a story. So I thought I'd share it for a little story time. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear about other disastrous relationships I've had a couple, and I'm healed and I'm over it, and I'm in an amazing relationship, so I don't mind talking about these things. If you want to hear more, let me know, because I got some tea. Okay, bye.